Call this meeting to order. Welcome to your POA Board's monthly meeting. And as I've announced previously, we welcome property owners to attend in person. And we're still live streaming and recording the meeting. So thanks to you for attending today, whether either in person or via live stream. We do have one board member who is attending remotely today. There are 6 of us. Quick reminder about our process. As the board works through each agenda item, I will ask for board comments and questions first. Once that is complete, I will ask for comments or questions from those in attendance or those on the live stream. If an item is to be voted on, there will be a request for a motion and a second from the board, followed by board discussion, and prior to the actual vote, I will ask for audience comments. To facilitate audience participation, I ask that you step to the podium, identify yourself, and use the microphone so that your comments can be picked up on the live stream. Comments from live stream participants will be relayed to those in the room by the POA communications personnel. When we get to the part of the meeting titled Other on the agenda, I will first ask board members if they have any other non-agenda items to discuss. Once that is completed, I will ask members of the audience if they have other items that they wish to address to the board. With that, let's go ahead and get started. May I have a motion to approve the September 15th, 2021 TVPOA Board meeting minutes as presented?
So moved.
Pat?
Oh, we both missed that.
Who's got the
I'll
second? Marty?
You didn't get it either. You're quicker than Pat.
Comments? Do we have Carla? Huh. There she is.
Miss America.
There she goes.
There she goes. Carla, I don't have you on the screen, so you're going to have to speak up.
Can you hear me?
All in favor? Carla, are you in favor of the minutes?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Nope. No, hello.
Okay. The next agenda item is the CEO's operation update. Earlier this year, we asked the CEO to do a quarterly operations update for the board. Additionally, we asked him to give an update to that report each month between the quarterly reports. Today's report is a full quarterly update and will be presented by our Chief Operating Officer, Mitzi Lane.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. I'll give it just a moment, see if Shannon can get the slides up there for you. You all can see Carla. In no particular order, I've asked all the management team to give me an update on things that have been going on this quarter, and so I don't have any particular order. We're going to start with recreation. The outdoor pools were both closed by October 5th for the season. We hate to see summer go, but it is that time of year. Simon has a Hike the Village program that will resume for the last 2 Fridays of this month. You can meet at the Timeless Teleco Trail kiosk beside the Wellness Center on Fridays at 9:30 a.m., so there are 2 more Fridays this year. Sunrise Yoga is continuing just throughout the month of October as well, and that is here at the Yacht Club. That begins at 7 a.m., and it is out here just outside these windows on the boardwalk. The kayak and paddleboard program will also continue throughout the month of October with reservations on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays, and that's from 10 a.m. and at 1 p.m. Simon actually sent me several new classes that they've started, and I just want to encourage everyone to go to the Teleco Village website and look under the recreation department because it's new classes that they're bringing in and old classes that they have restarted, post-COVID. The Chota rooms are now open, back to full swing, with 61 different groups meeting in the Chota rooms. The most recent event that Simon wanted me to make sure to mention is the Pickleball Club had a tournament to help raise funds for the Pickleplex. There were 162 participants and over 450 spectators on the weekend of September 25th. This event alone raised $26,000, with $16,000 going directly to the Pickleplex project through Timeless Teleco. Just a quick update on food service. It's not really an update. It was just something that I asked the AWE staff what their major needs were right now, and we are looking for some cooks for all 3 restaurants here in Loudon and also at Kahidi. So should you know anyone with experience, please send them to any of those locations to complete an application. The golf update comes straight from the desk of Chris Sykes. I see that he's in the back of the room if you have questions for him. But this is in Chris's words. Fall is the best time of the year in East Tennessee, one of the busiest seasons in Tellico Village. The weather is perfect as it is today, and the courses are in the best shape that they've been in all year. So now for the good news, the golf rounds, they were slightly behind the 2020 pace for the fourth month in a row, but still well ahead of our budget that we had for 2021. Total rounds are 23,547 approximately rounds ahead of budget and 5,934 ahead of last year's record year. The total golf revenue is strong due to the record volumes of rounds, and the merchandise sales remain strong. A total of $579,000 ahead of budget year to date. Very impressive golf department. The new carts have had an immediate positive impact on the golf experience. Chris says they are a game changer for our operation and have proved vital, enabling the staff to proactively manage the pace of play. If you haven't been out there to experience those, even if you're not a golfer, it might not be a bad idea just to go check those out. They say the technology on those is great. But golf has had another record season, and again, this is from Chris, and we couldn't be any more grateful to the team that makes it happen on a daily basis. The season is about to conclude, and we are looking forward to shifting our focus on how to continue to build off of this success. So great job to our golf department. I'll move on into marketing and a PR update. This came from Beth Kaburka. Our marketing numbers in all the categories, which would be what you all typically see on a quarterly basis, the discovery requests, the discovery packages, welcome center traffic, leads, and POA lots closed, all remain ahead in all of those categories above 2020 and 2019 numbers. Currently, the discovery request, we are at 97. Welcome center traffic, 857, and the POA lots closed on as of this report, 207. Very impressive. One of the big things that our marketing department is working on, along with PR, would be a text notification system. Many of you may have heard of this. I know Carla's kind of been in on this initiative as well, but this would be a notification system for property owners that elect to sign up to receive the text messages should there be a major road closure or some type of construction or a new back end for our POA website, and that will help the usability and function. And finally, the last thing is the Tellico Village broadcasting remodel is complete. They are just waiting on delayed furniture for the set. That seems to be kind of a theme for many of our departments is we've ordered equipment, ordered new furniture, and we're just waiting on the materials and the equipment as there's been a delay. So moving on into utilities, Chad Johnson has provided this report. The sewer tanks installed year-to-date, 187. Water lines installed year-to-date, 109. And the new water meters installed, 31, year-to-date 305, 31 for the quarter, I'm sorry. But the water meter change-out program, year-to-date, we have 165. The new dock at the Tenacity Basin, Funderburk is lined up to do the electric. Then our public works guys will do the water and the water stations in-house. Many of you know that there was a dock realignment that took place just outside the windows here at the Yacht Club. That was completely changed out with 10 new stainless steel cables to the existing anchors. The company is called Four Guys Diving, if you saw them out there. They put Four Guys Diving. They put 2 of the stainless steel cables on E-dock as well. The wave eater, many of you may have seen that. The installation, it says, is going great on that. On into Public Works. This is from Caleb Morris. I like to give credit to these special employees that have helped me with this report. The PMM asphalt sealer was completed at Tenacity Hills and Chota Woods.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to bring attention to something that happened with moving that dock.
Okay,
So
sure.
the,
Back to the D-dock realignment.
Yeah, the steel cable broke during a high wind and it pushed it over. And this year we've got divers going out and inspecting all the cables because that's unacceptable. But here's what I want to tell you. So this dock is now swung all the way over to the courtesy dock. They don't know where the big concrete anchors are on the bottom of the lake. Got an idea. Called these 4 divers from Cookeville, came on their own time to come over here. They all work a different job. They got in their truck, they came over here, they start diving. They can't find the anchors. One of the villagers that has a boat in the Yacht Club Basin goes by and talks to these guys and says, isn't it funny how I can turn out of my dock and I can see the anchor on my side scan radar that I used to fish with? I can help you guys out. He found every one of those anchors for those guys. And then decided that he could come back the next day and help them find the other anchors. And they said, we start at 7:30, and he said, I don't. So they started later. He found the anchors. So the Marine Advisory Committee knows the guy, and I think they've reached out to him. I'm not going to mention his name. It's just he's a hero in Tellico Village for doing that. And thank you very much.
It's funny, Pat mentioned that. We'd heard that story. They say that underneath there, the visibility is just less than a foot in your face, and they had big, huge, lanterns on their head, and you just can't see a thing, so they were feeling for those anchors. So it was interesting. So I'll back up real quick. Public Works, as I had mentioned, the PMM asphalt sealer was completed at Tenacity Hills and Chota Woods. They started the PMM asphalt sealer in Topua Coves, paved Atasi Trail in Kahiti, paved the Kahiti Trail entrance and exit. They have finished the street sign post changeout in Chattooga and Chio, and then Mialakwa neighborhood will finish out the final phase of the street sign post changeout. They have finished the patchwork crack and seal on streets that are getting the PMM asphalt sealer. And last but not least, added a culvert and catch basin on Amohai Way to fix a traffic hazard. The grounds maintenance, which is the same department as Caleb Morris, the Public Works, he has said that we have now completed all the aeration on the amenities throughout Tellico Village, as well as the overseed and the fertilization of these buildings and entrance yards. That has all been completed. The certification of the Yacht Club as a Tennessee Smart Yard is complete. That certification is hanging at the Public Works main office if you would like to go see that. And they will be prepping for fall annuals as a part of just keeping up the village look and the first impression and sprucing things up. So on to our ACC and Codes Enforcement Report given by Matthew Johnson. For the last 30 days, we have permitted 31 homes. Year to date, we have permitted 288, and that's actually been updated. Clayton told us at lunch. We're on up now. Year to date miscellaneous permits, 255, and we currently have 293 homes under construction. Clayton has recently been meeting with Republic on trash service about recent concerns that we have seen on Nextdoor and heard from phone calls throughout the office. And the residential side of those concerns, Clayton believes, has been worked out. He's still working on a few minor things with our actual POA facilities, just with timing and delays on picking up things. He has been meeting with the Jacobs engineering crew on water and sewer studies. That is still under review. He has been meeting with paving companies recently regarding their willingness to bid on jobs in Tellico Village. It seemed as though it were a challenge to get some paving companies to turn bids in when we needed jobs done, and so he's been meeting with those one-on-one to discuss those issues. And then finally, the Public Works, ACC, grounds maintenance have all been working on the 2022 budget, and they have been finalizing those changes with Charlotte and Kevin changes that have come up from these recent budget meetings that we've had. Our HR department, I'll go into that real brief. Chris Kimbrough is our new HR manager. Last week in the Telegram, you may have seen additional information about him. So just real high level, he comes to us from Nashville. He now has about 3 weeks on the ground, and he's been keeping us updated. He sat down with us yesterday in his first managers meeting, gave us some ideas on new projects that he sees in the future for the POA and the employees. He wanted me to mention we currently have openings in various positions: water, sewer, golf maintenance, So again, if you know anyone, just like with the food service, please send them our way and we'll get with them on an application. Our IT manager, Kevin Alfont, his update says the Kahiti boat dock cameras that had previously been budgeted by Jeff Gagley have begun installation and should be completed within 1 week. And this I got about 3 days ago, so we could be even closer now. The elections are coming up. Kevin actually handles all the VoteNet information when we get the biographies and the photos from the candidates. He uploads those in the database, puts the biographies on there. He gets VoteNet, works with VoteNet with our actual property owner list and uses, when we get the date of record, he gets that list uploaded from accounting and they create the passwords and usernames. So within the next week to 2, be looking for your postcard. You'll get the postcard that is just announcing that, hey, your election letter is on its way. You're going to receive your username and password. The election officially opens on VoteNet or by paper ballot at 12:01 a.m. on October 31st. The polls will close at noon on November 18th. And there are 3 candidates this year, Bob Brunetti, John Arguelles, and Hussein Nijam. With that said, I wanted to mention tomorrow the HOA will be hosting a POA candidates forum, and that will be from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Tellico Village Community Church. It will also be broadcast live, but this is an open meeting. If you wanted to take that opportunity to see who the candidates are, now's your chance to get in front of them right before the election opens in a couple of weeks. And that is all I have for you at this time. I know I have something coming up next.
Anybody have any questions for Missy? Okay, and she's still up. She's going to do a dock status update.
I'll keep this brief. I wanted to show you a summary. This was brought up at the last board meeting on how many slips we have currently in Tellico Village that are built, how many additional we can add. So you'll see the total slips built prior to 2021 was 665. There was 32 added in the Tenacity Basin this year, right now. They are finalizing the electric and water. I'd mentioned that in the previous report. They hope to have those all leased out by the end of the year. That will bring our total to 697. The total number of slips buildable now that we have already got permits are 154. So that will give us a grand total of 851 slips. So what I want to do is actually zone in on the total number of slips buildable without re-permitting, this 154. I want to show you where they are in Tellico Village. So if we go to the next slide, the Kahiti Townhouse area, we have room for 66 additional slips with the permitting already in place. If you notice, there's a few there on the left. We can add 6 there, 32, and 28. That's the blue area is what I want to point out. That's where we can add the additional slips. If you want to go to the next slide, please. Tenacity Basin site number 4, we have room for 88 slips. The 32 in yellow, the reason I stuck that there is that is the ones that I just previously mentioned that we hope to have leased out by the end of this year. We're just waiting on the water and the electric. But you'll see in blue, there's room for 1 in between, and then the 3 down on the bottom. And I think that might be the last slide, Rick, if you want to add to that.
Well, and by the way, this, so everybody knows, this doesn't include the docks that we're picking up in the strategic land acquisition deal with CCI.
Correct.
That would bring us another 70?
Maybe 75.
About that, yeah.
So, as long as we're talking about that, looking at this picture here, for those on YouTube and those in this audience here, you see that yellow cartoon blurb there that designates PDOC is what that's going to be. It's pointing at the parking lot, which is on the end of Amma Place, and you can see the little rectangular thing that's kind of cut off there. The dock out on the end that says 32, that's out by the last dock, which is out by the silos, that would be O dock. And then the last dock that is N dock that currently exists. I just want to bring up the fact that past boards, this board, and future boards are going to be dealing with an issue that is very impactful to the people that live along all of those little blocks there. Those are townhouses. And then across the street, Amma Place, which is a very narrow street, are also Tenacity Basin townhouses. And if you put in 64 more boat slips there, you're going to impact that neighborhood. And that's what the Marine Advisory Committee is looking at, is how impactful that they can be. That neighborhood has formed a group that is involved greatly with the lighting, the placement of the docks, the parking lots. They help the Marine Advisory Committee audit the parking, particularly on very busy holidays. And we're very, very aware of the fact that we're reduced parking. There's nowhere to go. You go to the east, you're in a lake. You go to the north, you're in a cemetery. You go to the south, you're in a lake. And you go to the west, which is what we inherited from CCI. All of those little slips there, in fact, those townhouses, the 1, 2, 3, 4, probably the first 5 from the parking lot back down to the blue docks on the end should have never been built. They should have been reserved for future parking for those docks, but Cooper, in his wisdom and doing what he was supposed to do, sold that high-value lakefront property and put homes on it. And this board and future boards are going to have to deal with that parking issue, not only there, but every other place that we put a slip or a dock in Tellico Village in the future. Now, we have a waiting list right now, Mitzi pointed out. When you have this land acquisition go through, which we hope it does, we will have 200 people on a waiting list. And then this board and next boards are going to have to determine, are we going to offer slips for everybody that wants a boat, or are you actually going to end up at some point not being able to supply slips for people and generate, therefore, a waiting list? So just throwing it out there, folks.
Mitzi, just out of curiosity, how many people are on the waiting list today?
What we have done is we've taken our POA list and that Cooper list and combined the two and taken out any duplicates, and there were 202.
202. Any other questions for Mitzi about docks? Anything from the audience?
Any questions online?
Okay. So the next agenda item would be the POA tax filings.
Thank you, Mr. President. Every year we prepare a informational tax return for nonprofit entities called the 990 form. It's an informational return. The tax practice of Coulter & Justice, who is also our external auditors, assist in the preparation of that tax form. We completed that informational return. It was reviewed by the audit committee this morning. We do, as a matter of practice, reconcile the return to our year-end audited financial statements as of 12/31/2020. The return filing deadline is November 15th, 2021. It does get filed electronically, and then a copy of the 990 and 990T will be posted out on the Tellico Village website for public consumption, as it is a public tax document at that point. With that, I'd like to ask the head of the audit committee to make a motion to approve the filing of the return.
Yeah, Kevin, just to cover, the audit committee reviewed it this morning, had a few questions. There'll be some few minor adjustments. When those get made, they'll be ready to file. So I'll make a motion to have the board approve the filing of the 2021 990. Any discussion? take a vote. All in favor? Huh?
Do we have Carla somewhere? All in favor? Carla, I can't see you, so say yea or nay. Carla, say nay, yea or nay. I can't see you.
Yay.
Yay, okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next agenda item is a report from the Government Affairs Advisory Committee. Susan Kirk.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. President, board members. Thank you for allowing me to represent the committee for you. A lot of what you hear is going to be repeat because, as we know, many times you say something and you have to keep on saying it and keep on saying it to get your message across. So we have had one committee member vacate, so we have an opening, and we have an application for that. This person interested hasn't even moved here yet. He's been following the committee online with our minutes and activities and through the telegram for the past year. He's due to move here next month. So once he's here, I will meet with him, set up an interview schedule for the committee, and hopefully we'll fill that vacancy. We're keeping our eye on several different things. Most important on topic is the redistricting. I put salaries first because a lot of people wonder how our county officials are paid. They don't realize the salaries by county elected officials are set by population, which is what our census and redistricting boils down to. So the first meeting of the redistricting committee was August 11th. Final census numbers are as related, and that's a 13% increase over last census 10 years ago. So our total population is at 54,886. We are the fastest growing county in East Tennessee. If you've looked next page, you'll see that horrible map. It's not a good copy at all. It's the only one that I could get, but it shows you how much we're growing with all the surrounding areas around us. The County Commission is scheduled to vote for the redistricting plan November 1st at their County Commission meeting. The Redistricting Committee has approved the plan. The County Commission has not approved it yet. When and if they approve it on November 1st, it will then go to Nashville for approval by the state legislature there. The plan that's before the commission now is that the west side of Highway 44 from the north end all the way down to Clear Creek Bridge will become District 1. We did have some people from the village that spoke, and their question was, why weren't a lesser amount of voters from District 1 added to District 2 so that we could stay as one unit and have two commissioners instead of such a large of our population being added to District 1. District 1 will now have about 11,000 voters, and that is about 1,500 of our village that will be among that 11,000. So our demographics are really diluted in being in District 1. That is an argument or an issue for others to argue, but I just wanted to put that before you. So as it stands now, if it is approved November 1st, all the way down to Clear Creek Bridge on the west side of Highway 44 will be District 1. It could mean the difference in some voting places and primaries and so forth. So the elections office will let us know of those changes that will be made. But 13% increase is a lot to absorb, as we know, as a village and as a whole county. The voter turnout for 2021, our POA, and our 2022 elections is something that we're keeping front and center for the committee. As you know, in 2016, we had very low vote in our school board district. In 2020, we helped work towards that and change it around, and we did change our school board member. That's the kind of impact we're working for the 2021 POA election and for our primaries and general election in 2022. How are we trying to do that? We're trying to put out as much information as possible through the different clubs in the village as more of a extension network of networking throughout the village, but also using the telegram as much as possible. One of the things we've been using, and you don't have it yet today, was the pie chart of where the POA fees go, and I know that's going to be updated, but it has prompted a lot of questions when I and other committee members have been out, because they didn't know that information was available to us. Where did you get that? Is it like I was someone special and could get this really private, personal information? I said, it's right on the website. Well, thank you, sir. And so between the village's pie chart and the county's pie chart, it has helped bring an awareness of why the 2022 elections are so important. Local elections matter. This is where your money is. This is where your power is. So the properties information now is also on the verge of being almost outdated, but it's all we have. As soon as we have the new one, we will give it to you. So the most important thing, other than our POA, which is right around the corner, and we intend to put more releases out through the Telegram on that, what's coming up next is our elected officials. Who's on the ballot May 3rd? And so, as you know, the mayor race currently is Buddy Bradshaw, and right now he is unopposed. All your county commissions are up for election. County trustee, that's Chip Miller. Your general sessions judge, Division 1 and 2. Your sheriff, and right now we currently have 4 candidates for sheriff. Circuit clerk Kirk, I believe the incumbent is the only announced. County clerk, we have 2 people, Riley Wampler and Amy Langley. Amy Langley is currently in the clerk's office. Register of Deeds is unopposed. Road superintendent, this name should be familiar to you, Billy Pickle is running for road superintendent. Pat, you look like you've got something to say.
Yeah, I
Go
do.
ahead.
Yeah, I do, and I know you have the answer to this, but if I'm reading this correct and I remember correctly, county mayor, trustee, I'm not sure about judge, sheriff, court clerk, county clerk, register of deeds, and road superintendent are county-wide elections, not district or
That's
commission.
correct.
Okay, so, and based on the election that elected the mayor and these people last time, and based on the numbers, because I know you remember the numbers, and you don't need to repeat them, I just know you know them. If, let's just say, 80% of the people in Tellico Village went out and voted, doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, Independent, however you want, if 80% of us went out and voted, could we, based on the total county percentage of who voted last time, could we elect the mayor?
We could have a very strong impact. Whether or not we could say we could actually recommend electing the mayor is,
It would be really close, wouldn't it?
I think it would. What it really would depend on is the turnout in other parts of the county.
Of the county, if we voted and they didn't,
Yes,
he's ours.
possibly, because we have looked at other districts and the turnout of those districts
Right.
in opposed races and unopposed races, and it is amazing the lack of voter turnout in different parts of the county.
Right, okay. Second part of the question is if we turned out 80% of the vote and it was a close call and the county actually elected the mayor, trustee, judge, sheriff, court clerk, deed of clerks, road superintendent, what do you think is going to happen in the next election when you almost got defeated by one community or you won by one community? Do you think they're going to come visit us a lot and want to know what's on our minds?
Well, they already are. They're paying attention to us.
Okay.
They already are. They're noticing, and I think maybe that's why we were redistricted as we were. I'm only guessing here. I can't read their minds. We're already getting that notice, and they are aware that we are respectfully vocal, that we're not going away, and that we do have a lot to say. Yeah, that we're going to play a part in what happens.
So if you want to have a voice, vote for your board members. That one's coming up. And if you want to
Absolutely.
have a total voice, get involved in these elections.
And I would say get involved in your village committees.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People wonder how they can make a difference and why they're not heard. And one of the best ways to be heard is to sit on these committees that feed information to you. Absolutely.
So based on one of the comments you made, are you suggesting that we've been gerrymandered?
Well,
No, I did not interpret it
far
that
be
way.
it to
No,
me
I'm
to
asking
say,
Susan that
however,
question.
Well,
Because that happened in 2010.
I would not make that accusation because I cannot prove any of that. However, when you look at the definition of and you look at what has happened, it certainly fits. But in the terms and definitions of what the redistricting committee had to say, they had what they felt was sound reasoning for all their actions. They could explain it. And so all of them felt that this was what was best to be done. I will say the very first meeting they had, it was made clear by every commissioner on the redistricting committee that nobody was interested in making any changes, and they indicated the reason for that was that the voters didn't like it when you made any changes, and that there was no interest in taking the number of commissioners up or down in any manner. And so there was a consensus that we will leave things the same with a commission of 10, and we will figure out what we have to do. And then the districts were changed as they have been proposed.
And then taking the contrary position, they did what they were required to do. Part of the requirement is look at the population so that each commissioner is not overburdened. It meets those requirements. Mm-hmm. All of this is all above board and was done the correct way. So anybody watching on this YouTube video, thank you all very much for doing what you did.
Mm-hmm. The proposed districts were on online, I believe, 1, possibly 2 days prior to the commission voting on it in the redistricting committee. And so that information was available out there. The meetings were publicly noticed, and I made 2 out of 3. I was not able to make the last one. And they had a dozen or more people at the ones that I went to. And like I say, some village representatives spoke and presented our case very well. I don't know that it was heard, but it was not listened to.
And now it is our obligation to go within your district and cast your vote.
Correct. So everyone who lives in the new District 1 will have someone new to vote for, and District 1 will need a village person to possibly consider running for District 1. Right now, there is an announced candidate for county commissioner in District 1. There is no opposition at this point. So, anything else? That's redistricting. Okay, on to, back to May 3rd, primary. All of those listed on May 3rd, the race is decided on May 3rd. With one caveat, they have got to appear on the August ballot and get one more vote on the August ballot in order to close out the election. But all of those positions on May ballot are decided in May, all the sheriff, county trustee, and otherwise. On the state ballot in August, you have the U.S. House Representative 2nd Congressional District. As you know, that's Representative Tim Burchett. Tennessee State 5th District, which is Senator McNally. Tennessee House of Representatives, the 22nd and the 32nd District, that is Representative Russell and Representative Ken Caffey. And our state executive committeemen and committeewomen, I don't know how many of you know them, that's Scott Smith and Amy Jones. And I believe they're both declared for running again.
I'm just curious, what do those people do?
They interact with the party, the Republican Party. They are your committee people for the party, for the elected officials, and then up to the national GOP. Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, the people that you mentioned, and I'm not endorsing or against or anything, it just hit me all of a sudden. The House of Representatives is Tennessee Senate and the Tennessee House of Representatives. All of them are very, very involved in keeping Asian carp out of this area, are
Absolutely.
they not?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Representative Russell is on the Transportation Committee, and he is trying to help us in getting a traffic light at Niles Ferry Road and 411 down near Kahidi. Senator Bell is the senator for Monroe County, and he is chairing the Asian Carp Committee. So yes, and Representative Russell also sits on the redistricting committee for Nashville. November 8th, the positions that are coming up on that ballot, and so most people will look at them and think, well, what do they matter? And so I would just ask people to take a look and realize what's happening throughout the country and find where you come out on that. And if you feel our judges are doing what they need to, or they're not, then you should vote your conscience and take a look at what the positions are and get to know these candidates and vote accordingly. Other than that, the Loudoun School Board District 2 seat, A and B, is up. That is not our district we vote in, but that seat will change this year. So that's the November 8th. So what's important about these dates is the voter registration deadline for your primary in May. You must have a voter registration in by April 4th. Your early voting period will be April 13th to 28th, and right now they are not saying where because those polling places may change due to redistricting. Your absentee ballot request deadline is April 26th. So for people thinking ahead, as COVID gets under control, gets more guidelines and people are itchy to travel, if you're going to be gone, get your absentee ballot request in, see what you can do about making sure your vote is still heard even though you may not be here. And we're going to be encouraging a very strong early voting period and absentee vote. For August, the voter registration deadline is July 5th, so it's about 30 days ahead of time. Early voting is just the last 2 weeks of August, July 15th to the 30th, and then your absentee ballot deadline is July 28th. So July's a busy month for that August primary, but again, just work it into your calendar, get that vote to count. The general election, November 8th. Your voter registration is October 11th. Early voting, October 19th through November 3rd, and then your absent ballot is November 1st. So if you want your opinion to matter, if what you think needs to be considered, your vote needs to be heard. And so we're going to be getting this message across. You'll see this information a lot put out on the Telegram as these deadlines get closer, and different people in our committee will keep carrying this message. So issues of concern that the committee is still continuing to deal with. The tax bills have just gone out, and it was a much quieter process than the estimates when they went out in April. I don't think anybody had a bunch of angry emails or phone calls or anything. People were prepared for them, and I think some people are actually a little pleased that it wasn't as horrible as they thought it might be. Our committee is monitoring the TVA land revision plan just north of us. And there's some public comment that's due to be heard potentially this fall. It may be put off until spring, but also the bridge park on Highway 321 and what their land use plan will be. So we'll continue to watch redistricting, the 2022 elections. What our projects, what we're ongoing with, we've been wrapping up the volunteer hours. We've been working on this for 2+ years, and we're finding that we're not getting a lot of new input onto it, although we continue to seek information to add to it. But the numbers haven't changed that drastically from what we had last. We have been working on an information packet for villagers, not just new villagers, but for villagers. It's been amazing to us, the committee people who have been approached by people who have been here, and they don't know who our representatives are. They don't realize that the vote in May matters so much. And so this information packet will be for both counties, Loudoun and Monroe, and it will cover who the elected representatives are, the districts, the school boards, when they meet, the boards, commissions, and everything that someone being new here to getting used to Tennessee would need to know. It's interesting, you move from another state and then sometimes you don't realize how different it can be, the way they've structured something. Our committee presence continues at different meetings and meeting with elected officials. We did have a meeting set with Senator Mike Bell, and I was just notified yesterday he's going to be in special session. He's going to be rescheduling that. But we were going to be able to meet with him for the first time, and we were going to discuss a lot of Asian carp as well as other Kahidi issues. And then we've been meeting with different candidates and elected officials. We met for the first time with U.S. Representative Chuck Fleshman, who represents Kahiti, and that was a very good meeting. He was very glad to be with us, and we've begun to build some bridges with his office and contacts, and so we're very glad that finally worked out. That took about 10 months to put that meeting together. He's a very, very busy man. One thing I wanted to announce, and this is not put on by the Governmental Affairs Committee, but Monday night, the 25th, is a debate among the 4 sheriff's candidates. And that is at the Loudoun County Annex, begins at 6 p.m. And so for people interested in who they should vote for as candidate, a sheriff for the county, that should help them. Some of the things I wanted to point out, it's interesting. People either seem to be really glad they find us as the Governmental Affairs Committee, or people say, I didn't even know you were here, what in the world do you do? And so the committee put together a little bit of things we have been able to accomplish. It hasn't even been 3 years yet, and we started from nothing but the idea of what 7 different people thought they wanted us to be. So merging all of that together, we have begun to build relationships with Loudoun and Monroe County officials. What we have noticed is that before, when we entered a room, we didn't know anybody, and people would wonder who we were. And now when we walk in, lots of times a hand is extended and they recognize us, know us by name. And so that's beginning to happen for the whole committee as we're spread out as we go to different meetings. The turnout for the vote for the District 7 board election was a good plus for us. We worked hard on that. That we had the highest voter turnout in the previous election. We're helping to raise village awareness of the reassessment of property. That was an eye-opener, I think, for some people. I don't know where they came from, but to suddenly land here and find out they were being reassessed, some of them thought it was because they just bought their house. Some didn't expect it for the next 10 years. And so, that has helped that we have gone through that process. Monroe does it, I believe, next year. We've monitored the redistricting process, awareness of how important Tellico Village District 1 is to the village, and we're going to be doing more of that, making the village aware. While we're a whole village, we're now 2 different districts, and when you consider Monroe, 3 actually. But we still have to think of ourselves as one and work as a cohesive unit for what's good for the village. So. We have a presence in the counties. We're working with Stay in TV in order to disseminate information. There is a Meals on Wheels availability and program in the village, and a lot of people are just beginning to become aware of that. And something else that we've just been able to do, Representative Burchett sets up mini town halls where he is available to people, and they can come in and just talk to him about anything, any concerns they have. That's going to happen here in the village at the Visitor Center on November 2nd from 10 to 2. He's going to be there, and anyone can stop in, talk to him, ask him for help if they need something from the VA and aren't getting it, have a problem with something, want to tell him what they think of him, whatever. That is what he is here for. So, but that has never been done in the village before, and so they reached out after having dealt with us and visited our committee and wanted to set this up. So we were able to do that for him. So, and I remain open to your questions.
Any questions for Susan?
Got mine
Anybody
out of
in
the
the
way.
audience? Susan, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
That brings me to the finance section of our agenda.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, Board, villagers. Thank you for coming out. We'll start with the key non-financial indicators. And I'll refer to the year-to-date. Assessed lots, 6,542. POA lots sold, 246, with a remaining inventory of 323. Head count, we're searching still for 1 public works, 2 in water and sewer, and 8 golf maintenance. Moving down to public works, we had property transfers of 922. New home builds, 293. We have 2 new home permits, 200 288. Miscellaneous permits, 255. Moving down to golf, they're going strong with 85,000 rounds. That's 23,000 over budget. And docks, 100% leased. The wait list is 171. RV, the wait list is 67. And recreation is going strong as well, getting back to pre-COVID memberships. Before we get into the P&L, I wanted to mention cash balance is $4 million. The reserve balance is $8.4 million for a total of $12.4 million in cash. Revenue, actual year-to-date, $19,168,000. Expenses, $14,380,000 for net income of $4,788,000, and that's $5 million favorable against budget. We'll go over the category of revenue next. I'll mention a few of the outstanding items. Assessment revenue is up due to our continued growth. Late fee, the shortfall in revenue is offset by bad debt. Wanted to mention that we had a collections meeting with the board this morning. We shared that we do have a team together that meets every 2 months. We've developed a top list of 25 that we are moving towards making those productive in terms of getting deed in lieu. We have continued collections process. We have a AR specialist that has 12 years experience, stays on top of collections. She maintains the collection timeline, and she is outstanding. Ashley Chambers, so I wanted to mention that. In addition, we have a tax sale coming up where we could get back up to 40 lots. Golf, doing exceptionally well. They're way over budget. Wanted to mention that we did return the old, we sold the old carts, and we have the new carts all in place in September. Due to an accounting standards change, those golf carts, even though it's on an operating lease, we've booked those on the balance sheet as an asset, a right-of-use asset, with the corresponding operating lease liability. And then, once again, recreation membership over budget, doing extremely well. Installed tanks, we had 12 closed jobs. And as mentioned, dock revenues strong, favorable, with a waiting list of 171 at this time. ACC permits is the favorable variance is due to new home permits, 105 over budget, or 159 over budget, that is. And then the favorable variance is due to primarily administrative service fees related to property transfers. Any questions? Okay, here are the revenue and expense trends over month by month. Next. Okay, expenses. Maintenance, once again, a large variance. Most of this is due to timing delays. We have the pavement preservation. Work continues. We have 2 neighborhoods that are complete. We have the overlay with PRI. We're working on Tokwa parking lot. That should be going now or by the end of the week. We have the water system improvement, which should finish by the end of the year. We have the sewer system study, which will finish by the end of this month. We have the water storage rehab. Funding request will be next month. We're in process with the dock anchor replacement. The wet well coating funding will be next month, the funding request that is. And then the Chota sprinkler system will be done in the winter months. Moving down to salaries and benefits, the favorable variance is primarily due to these positions that we are trying to fill. Of the 448 favorable, we've got golf, 112, public works, 251, and rec, 48. The remaining is admin. And then water and sewers favorable. Food is going very strong. And the tank installations, wanted to mention, the unfavorable variance relates mainly to the increase in material costs. And then other, the favorable variance of 792, of that, that 487 relates to the sale of lots, and 277 relates to the return of the used golf carts, the sale of the used golf carts.
Charlotte? Question on the, your comment on the tank installations where you're unfavorable because of the cost of the materials?
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna propose an increase in the cost for tank installations in the 2022 budget so we get that back closer to break even or some gain?
Yes, we're looking at that and coming up with a plan.
Because I don't remember any recommended change in fees when we went through the first drafts of the budget. So we need to make sure our tank installations are at least breaking even, just like on water and sewer. Okay.
Okay. Next. And here's the net income trend. All right, golf rounds, doing very well. Tokwa, almost 27,000 rounds. Tenacity, year-to-date, almost 25,000 rounds. And Kahidi, almost 20,000 rounds. And then guest rounds, Tokwa, 4,400. Tenacity, 4,600. Kahidi, 5,000. It's 5,000 over budget. And then here are your cart rounds, 72,000 in total, 13,000 over budget, showing total consolidated rounds of 85,000, and that's almost, or it's 23,500 over budget.
Just another plug. If you look at your data on after 12 annual memberships of 11,125, you've got 267 memberships. So right now they're averaging 42 rounds. And I'm assuming these are 18-hole rounds on this report?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
So again, I ask you to take a look, Chris, when you look at what you're going to propose in your budget, because I think your proposal next year is the break-even number of rounds is closer to 30 on the Twilight. And already we're seeing your actual data shows 42 rounds. So we've got a lot of folks this year, because I think the break-even was closer to 22, 25 rounds, playing for free, except for rentals of carts.
And here are household memberships. As mentioned, going very strong, 950 for the month, September, and individual memberships, 613 for the month of September.
Any questions for Charlotte? Anyone from the audience? Okay, thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
And that brings us to Kevin's report.
Thank you. I'll cover some of these quickly. I think Mitzi mentioned a lot of these in the operational update. The 2022 budget process is well underway. We're working through final changes from the Strategic Investment Board workshop that was held earlier in the month. We've got to work through timing of capital projects and things that won't get done this year that'll go into next year. We are going to have the final draft review of the budget by the board on October 27th and 28th. Those meetings start here in the Yacht Club at 9 a.m. They will be live streamed as we have with all of our budget meetings to date. We did hold, which I was very pleased with all the attendance, we did have town hall meetings to discuss the Cooper land acquisition. Work is underway as discussed at those town halls on due diligence. On operational front, asphalt work is being completed. We should be done by the end of October. That's obviously, as Charlotte mentioned in the maintenance expense, a big timing difference. So very pleased to see that Mother Nature cooperated with Public Works to get a lot of that road work done. We still have a lot of work to do on getting other maintenance and just regular chores done around the village. Mitzi did mention we are seeing, vendor scheduling problems and product availability with the whole economy and shipping containers, et cetera. So we continue to stay on top of all of our vendors. It's our goal not to have anything kind of fall through the cracks or bleed into next year. Mitzi also mentioned the wave attenuator out back at the Yacht Club here is close to being finished, and that will be behind us. Charlotte did mention we have strong cash balances due to the higher revenue, and that's good to see that our revenue remains strong across all categories, as well as timing of maintenance completion. So we should lose at least $1 million on the expense side as some of those timing items hit in the last quarter. And then Charlotte did mention we did have a one-time gain on the disposal of assets related to the golf cart lease. The secondary market for gas carts was extremely strong. So when we retired the golf carts, we received $404,000. We still had net depreciable life on a few of those. So the net gain was $278,000. So overall, not only it improved the golf experience, but it was a financial benefit for us this month as well. Next slide. So on capital requests for the month, there's two that are more informational. They don't require any board action, and one that will, and I'll get into that in a second. The two requests, the first one is for the maintenance department for a truck. It's an F-150 truck. Clayton Taylor is the manager. We had budgeted $46,127. The requested amount was $43,709. Source of funds was operating cash. It did not require FAC or board approval. It was within the CEO's approval authority. Obviously, the need, we typically go through 4 or 5 vehicles a year in our normal replacement schedule. The maintenance department needed a new truck. We do need to review our overall fleet. I know we'd like to keep things for parts around here, but I don't like it looking like a junkyard either. So we do have prices on scrap metal and properly disposing of POA assets. So that process will be followed, and we'll get some of that cleaned up here shortly. We did have to act quickly on these trucks. As many of you know that are buying personal vehicles, the inventory is next to nothing. So I think our relationship with Jackie Jones Ford helped us when they had 2 trucks available. Jackie Jones, the bid came in at $43,709, slightly below the budget. Next slide, please, Shannon. The next informational capital request is for the sewer department F-150 truck. The budgeted amount here was $45,135. The requested amount was $40,879. Again, the source of funds, operating cash. And again, the same justification. Jackie Jones as well at $40,879. No action required. It's within budget and within the CEO approval authority. Yes, Steve?
How soon before you have a summary of all the trucks and cars that we have with our employees and what you have in inventory to sell?
I could work through that with Clayton pretty easily. I mean, most of them are within Public Works. We've got some within Golf, but
I'd like to see a list maybe next month that shows, here's our total inventory of
Sure.
trucks and cars, who has them? And then what do you have, because right here, you're gonna have two used trucks. So what's the inventory used?
yep.
Okay.
I'll get that to the board. Next slide, please, Shannon. So the request that does require board approval, the Chota Water Reservoir inspection and repair. This is the water tank that is on top of the hill at the Wellness Center. I don't know if any of you have hiked up that hill. It's kind of tucked back in there. The request is for inspection and repair of the 500,000 gallon tank. It's sole source due to the complexity of the project. The company that built the original tank will complete the project. Chad Johnson is the manager. The budgeted amount is $255,323. The requested amount is $169,200. Now, I will mention, because I consider this to really be an unfunded project, Public Works did submit this in their financial models for this year's budget. Due to the complexity of that previous budget model, that number did not roll up into our total consolidated capital. So for approval, I just want to be clear that I consider that to be an unbudgeted request. PSAC did recommend the repair and inspection of that tank. The FAC reviewed that on Friday. They made the recommendation to do that as well. The tank, the project justification, that tank is 25 years old, and it is starting to show some leakage in certain areas. There's scaling where water is coming out. The vendor has experience and expertise to repair and inspect both the interior and exterior of that tank. And there is some additional funds built into that $169,000 request for any contingencies that we may find when they drain and inspect the tank. So the chrome coating and restoration is the bid, and the request would be to the board to approve unbudgeted capital for the project with, that should read funding from the R&M reserve.
Question.
Shouldn't it come out of the water and sewer reserve? Because property owners that don't own houses here shouldn't have to fund a water project.
That's true. So
It
I
needs
could
to come
amend
out-
that request.
Yeah, it needs to come out of the water and sewer reserve.
Okay, so I'm going to
When-
ask for a motion to
Wait, I
approve.
still have a question.
Well, we'll get to the questions once the motion's on the table.
Yeah, okay, we'll follow your order.
To approve the unbudgeted capital expenditure of $169,200 for the inspection and repair of the Chota Water Reservoir tank funded from the Water and Sewer Reserve Fund. Steve? Sue?
Sue,
Now.
very faster.
You have a question.
Yes, when? When is this work scheduled to be done?
They will be here November 1.
All right, so this is after the irrigation season is over then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that was planned?
And that's
Yes, that
important
was planned that way.
because
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, well, just, Rick, that's important because,
Yeah, I mean, it'll affect water pressure, which it won't when irrigation system's over.
Yeah.
You know, irrigation time's over. That's why we plan November.
so do you think we will have any notifications of areas like don't use the water or use the water?
No, sir.
Okay.
That's why we waited till November.
All right, good deal. Thanks.
So Clayton, is this likely an interior recoating?
Yes, it's interior. There will be some patching work and sealing the inside and doing the exterior of the tank also.
How many days?
They're saying about a week, so I'm figuring 2 weeks. So,
And then what, a month delay, so maybe
no,
just-
So
no.
we're just building a little cushion here.
They're
No
already,
sandbagging.
yeah, they've already got planned bringing the equipment in, so we're working with them bringing the equipment in.
Hang on.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Carla.
Did you say the motion was for a capital expense?
Unbudgeted capital expenditure. That's how it's categorized.
If it's unbudgeted, why is there a budget amount listed on the request?
Well, is this capital?
It does extend the useful life,
Okay,
so,
so then it would be unbudgeted capital expenditure.
yes.
Anything else from the board? From the audience? Yes. Yeah, you got to come do this thing. Otherwise, it won't be picked up on the live feed.
And tell them who you are too, Steve.
Yeah, just because we know who you are.
If I heard Kevin correctly, the 169.2 could be less when they're done, or could it be more?
Yes to both. If we don't have any contingencies in the inspection, it would come in less.
Okay. But what happens if it comes in more?
Then I would have to come to the board with a second,
Yeah, you get plus 10%.
yeah, I've got a
as
little bit of.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
of room there,
10% is
but-
built in. Okay.
So
Yes,
it
sir.
could go up to 188 or thereabouts.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Before you had
So
to come
it's-
back to the board.
It's handled.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else from the audience?
I got another rebound question.
Okay, go for it.
I missed it. How did we not get, this says it's budgeted, but you're saying that it's unbudgeted. So I missed that conversation, and the question is, if it's unbudgeted, how do we not know that we were gonna have to take a look at this and fix a leak? Is it was it a surprise, oh, we got a leak?
No. It was a finance error in the budget model, Steve. So this was the first row of a capital line item in Public Works. And then when Parker and I consolidated up the capital on a consolidated basis, that did not get reflected. And I actually had IT go back and restore a budget file back from January to make sure that no one had gone in and changed it on me subsequent, so.
So it's Parker's fault.
I will not, I have never
So-
done that, thank you.
So that would lead, from another conversation that was had.
Yeah, not by me.
So any other comment, questions?
We have one online
Okay.
from Harry Rucker. How much is the contingency and how many square feet of shell replacement are in the contingency?
I want to say that contingency is $10,000. And what was the second part of that question, Beth?
How many square feet of shell replacement are in the contingency?
I don't understand that. Shell replacement?
Shell, which would be the actual walls of the tank.
I don't think, the intention is not to replace any part of that cement wall that is the exterior of the tank. It looks terrible because of the age of the concrete, but I think between patching and coating, obviously the engineers and the technical folks on that project will deal with the structural side of things. The aesthetic side, I'm not sure if the intent is to, do anything there.
Okay, anything else? Okay, all in favor? And Carla, I can't see you, so aye or nay? Hello, Carla? Okay, I got 5-0 here. Carla, if you can hear me, I guess you
I'm
can.
sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I can hear you. and
Yay
I
or
say-
nay?
I say aye. Yay.
That would be 6-0. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next slide, please, Shannon. This is a little bit of an eye chart, but I updated for the capital request today where we're at year-to-date. Like I mentioned earlier, we are working through what remains open and likely to go into next year. So far, two of the items that will most likely go into the 2022 as carryover are some renovations here in the yacht club. I know Mitzi and Beth are working hard to kind of scope out that project. With the vendor supplies, I'm not sure even if we ordered all of the improvements here that it would get in time. And the second carryover so far that I've got on my list is the water system improvements that were budgeted for $300,000. That'll go into next year, where there's also right now a placeholder for another $300,000 for $600,000 in total related to water system improvements pending, final review and board approval of the water system study. Next slide, please. That's just a short list. Certain things we will not be asking for. Obviously, we had some ACC truck for some incremental staffing that was not requested. Golf had some items that did not need to be required because we got them for free in the golf cart deal, golf cart batteries, a little bit of HVAC purification system. If you remember, we had $90,000 put aside for COVID-related HVAC improvements, which was decided not to proceed. So,
Just to clarify, we decided not to proceed because it didn't work.
correct. Next slide. And then finally, a cash flow check for the month. Obviously, we expected budget and net income of $575, $747. As Charlotte mentioned, our year-to-date net income variance is $5,122,000 for a projected net income of almost $5.7 million. We're a little bit behind on depreciation due to the delay of capitalization, which would be an add back to net income of $1.8 million. We had budgeted CapEx of 3.6. We're a little bit over that with the approval of the unbudgeted water tank that we just talked about. For CapEx of $3,790,000, our net cash flow then would be a positive $3,743,000 compared to our net cash outflow that we expected in the budget of $1.2 million. So I know we still have a few months left of the year to get a lot of things done, especially on the maintenance front. But ceteris paribus, holding everything equal, we're looking at a pretty good another year financially for the village. Obviously, we're working through a lot in next year's budget and the 10-year plan, but I'm certainly grateful for these types of years when we do get them.
I didn't know they taught Latin in finance.
Well, business law in my...
There you go. Okay, any questions for Kevin?
Just to highlight, though, you've got almost $2 million of maintenance projects, which is generating $2 million of cash.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yep.
we did have a windfall on all the ACC permits and other revenue streams such as rec. We went in with a very conservative approach. So let's tell the full story.
Absolutely.
No, I was just debating.
And we're not going to do that again this year.
No, I was just debating whether I should chime in because, you know, we were paying less than $2 a gallon last year. Now it's over $3. People can't find. They're now paying premiums to get people to hire in. Wages are going up. Cost is about to go real high, real fast.
Well, and you're right about that, Pat. And in next year's budget, we've allocated a lot of money that's going to go into employee salaries.
Absolutely.
And benefits are going to go up more than we would hope.
Absolutely, and we're also seeing on these reports that insurance is going up, even though we're putting things like fire extinguishers on the docks. It went up again.
Absolutely. And I understand we like to beat ourselves up, but there are a lot of good things happening in the village. Between, you know, at the start of COVID, it's difficult to project how the year was going to unfold. So the fact that we're hitting on assessments, we're hitting on POA lot sales, water and sewer volume, you know, people flush, you know, probably
No,
the
they
same
don't.
amount year over year.
No, they don't.
But, you know, there's a lot of good momentum, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So-
and I'm kind of pointing out is that if you stay on top of this year to year and you stay, and here comes the plug, folks, if you go out there and you get in this long-range planning survey, and if you take it, then you get a direct voice in the direction this village goes. And if this board looks at that, which we all do, and have been looking at it long-term for the last 4 years, it gives us a strategic plan to move forward. And one of the big things in every one of these surveys, number one item has been, anybody remember the last one? Finances. Not living in debt, not having an uncalled for special assessment, et cetera, et cetera. And like Steve points out, the $3 million is laying out there, and oh boy. But, you know, if it's not, then you don't take advantage of paying down a debt like the TOCA, or being able to pave a road and keep it up, or being able to redo a water tank in November, and you're not forced to do it and pay out the nose in the heat of the summer when we're all irrigating our lawns. There's a lot of due diligence and foresight here. I'm done.
Just as a sneak peek for next week budget, we talk about inflation. We built in what for materials, 4%?
Yes, sir.
So I asked Kevin the other day, I says, what if we're off? Because now we're seeing increases greater than 4. The CPI went up 5.4% June to June. So 1%, if we're off 1% on that materials and the services forecast in next year's budget, that means there's $163,000 not covered. Our costs go up 163 for every 1% we're off on that 4%.
And then the choices are, Steve?
Cut expenses, or make sure you got enough covered in your POA fees, or don't do something.
Don't supply the services.
Right.
Right.
So just a heads up for next week.
Okay, anything else from the board for Kevin? I turn it to the audience. Anybody out there got any comments for Kevin? Okay. Online? So, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
You are now released. Okay. So it's been mentioned already, but we have consolidated budget meetings on October 27th and 28th. They're at 9 a.m. in this room. Live participation is allowed up to the capacity of the room, and we will be doing it live stream.
Not allowed, highly recommended.
Well, fine.
Yeah, okay. Just to take the attorney, I got him one time, didn't I?
We do have a board election coming up, and I really do want to be emphatic about this. The last board election, we had barely 20% of the population vote. The people that you elect to this board represent you. If you don't vote, what should they do, Pat?
They should come to the meetings and represent themselves.
There it is. Okay. With that, I'll turn it over to the board for any others.
Do you want to mention the Meet the Candidates tomorrow night?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there is a Meet the Candidate that is being sponsored by the HOA. It's tomorrow at 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock at the community church. I'd encourage you to get to know the candidates and then vote. Thanks, Marty. And also, I would also encourage you to participate in the long-range planning survey that's out there in the village until the end of October. If you don't let us know what you're thinking, we're not going to divine it. So, anything else from the board under other? Anything from the audience? Okay. So, do I have a motion to adjourn? We're done.